Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Can't believe it. You know, I get a chuckle every day. I look at the clock and I go, wow, I can't believe we're still on the air. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. Broadcasting 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Nathan's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. If you'd like to take us with you as you travel, we have a telephone listen line, 605-477-3249, 605-477-3249. With us live in Australia, Guineith Isaacs, welcome.
How are you this morning?
Hey, Guineith, you know, it's great to hear your voice. And so, you know, I do some of my clearest thinking in the shower. And so, you know, it's this high pressure, low volume, little bit of water, but, you know, it's kind of like a pressure washer. And so and the noise is like, shh, you know, makes that kind of a sound. And I was thinking, the word that came up as I was grinning, thinking about your freedom, as you announced yesterday on the air, is the deadman switch.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
and I wonder, you know, how much of your freedom is based on that deadman switch. And the reason
a whole lot.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I'm mentioning this is if you've read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, it's, you know, surprise, surprise, surprise. Keep your enemy off guard, surprise him. And I think that works really well, you know, when you're willing to kill people in war. One army against another, that kind of thing. A surprise attack, I guess, makes a lot of sense, like the Japanese did or tried to do in 1941 here in the United States at Pearl Harbor. However, the strategy that I use when I'm dealing with these guys with guns, I'm talking about the Blue Plague, and I'm talking about the revenue agents and the government. My strategy is exactly the opposite. My strategy is to tell them, well, you know, when you come attack me, as you already have, here's the plan. This is not a threat. This is how it's going to lay out. By the way, you will become famous. You will be all over the internet. You'll be on radio. Your picture will be everywhere. Where you live, your front door, how much you make, everything that we can find out about you will be there for everybody to see, including all the damage you have done to us. Not that we're picking on you, it's you picked on us, and this is just what happens. So I explain this to them. And another way of doing that is the dead man switch. So if I suddenly get reported that I've committed suicide, which I would never do, then the dead man switch, my hand is off the dead man switch. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just going to go off. Is that what you think helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, tell us about it. You want to tell us, not necessarily anything that's in the switch, but
not anything that's going to indicate what the switch is, because the people who know about the switch know the information that is going to be released because they've been told. Okay. But in my travels, I have kept my ears open and my eyes open, and I have found out information about what's been going on in various locations that I have lived in around the country, including Queensland and including Western Australia, which were two locations that my children and I had to flee for our lives from. Okay? I found out things that were going on there, and you know what? Are you still there?
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Hello?
I'm listening intently.
Yeah,
I'm listening intently. Yep, I'm here.
And I just filed that information away. I said to myself that might come in handy one day. I had no idea that there was such a thing as a dead man switch back then. But it was some, I would say, Holy Spirit instinct that told me to pay attention, and I did. And that information, I made further inquiries, and it proved to be accurate. And when these people came along and said that they were going to, from recently, I'm talking about in the last month or 6 weeks or 2 months, the Queensland Police and the WA Police basically notified me that they were going to issue arrest warrants against me, which probably would have been fatal for me, okay, because I don't think I would have survived the experience. In Queensland, basically, around about the time I decided to take my children and flee, was the police were doing things like coming down to my isolated country house and shining spotlights in my window in the middle of the night. And they were doing things like, I owned a yacht at that time, and one night it mysteriously sank in the middle of a shipping lane. When things like that begin to happen, it's time to go. And the Department of Child Kidnapping and Pedophilia in Queensland decided that they were going to kidnap my children. And so I went and got them back and got out of there. That was why we had to leave Queensland. It was extremely traumatic. I was a mess after that. And we fled to WA because I have a lot of family there. And with some help from a relative, I was able, and I had some money set aside. I was able to buy a small farm of about 10 acres with a house on it. And we lived there for about 4 years, but we knew that the global financial crisis, or I knew, my children were still really small at the time, I knew that the global financial crisis was coming, and I thought that it was probably a good idea to be rid of, we weren't making payments on the mortgage, but there was a mortgage on the property. We were paying rent to the party that held the mortgage. But we thought, I got together with the mortgage holder, and we decided that it was probably a really good idea to pay off this mortgage because we could all see what was coming. And so I sold it at a profit, and I bought a house in the suburbs of Geraldton, and we lived there, but there were a pair of pedophiles around the corner, and they started stalking my children. And there were 6 abduction attempts in 4 years, which once again was hell on earth. And because of that, we once again had to leave there in a hurry. And that's cutting a very, very long, complicated story, very, very short. But we ended up here. And I thought that life would be peaceful here, and it wasn't, of course. Although it might be now, because
Guineith, how much of the lack of peace of your life has to do with your not submitting to the demands of the plague, the blue plague, and the alleged authorities?
75% of it, and the other 25% is not submitting to the fact that there's pedophiles who want to abduct my children. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Whether they are inside or outside of the child protection system.
I can tell you that there would be hell to pay if those attempts were made in my neck of the woods.
And the fact that the police are all over the place, all over the world, as far as I can tell, are actually protecting the pedophile cartels, and that's absolutely disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in Washington, D.C., the Capitol Police are protecting the criminals as well, and they're not investigating specific crimes, including murder. These Congress thugs, Congress critters, alleged representatives are literally getting away with murder.
Yeah.
It's being reported. Yep. And I believe it was Paul Harvey that said, if you want to get away with murder, you need to move to Wright County, Missouri, or you can commit it in Wright County, Missouri.
Wow.
And
that's really tragic.
Yeah. And Paul Harvey was a very famous on-the-air broadcaster for decades. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. This is an interesting discussion, and it naturally leads me to ask you this question. And if you don't want to answer it, don't. But I was thinking, life on the run. Now, I know some people who have attempted to get away for their own safety. The big bad machine was coming after some people, and some have decided to just get out of the way of this incarceration because they've been incarcerated, more than once, and they realize how dangerous it is. You have to breathe the air they let you breathe. You have to drink the water they let you drink. You have to eat the food.
Mm-hmm. And you might just get bashed over the head with something one day.
Yeah, and that's happened, or stabbed, or have your ribs broken, or tortured. Yeah, at the behest of the guards or the administration, or you just might have looked at some deranged person that's in there for a good reason, in prison for a good reason, and you might have looked at him the wrong way, or not looked at him at all, and gotten yourself almost killed. So, the question I have for you is: if a person were to go on the run, are there some do's and don'ts? Is that something that you'd like to talk about, or we can avoid that? Your call.
After the break, maybe.
Okay, think about it. We'll be right back. Class, Guineith Isaac's with us, and she's live in Australia. And I broached the subject about being on the run. So let me start. And I do not want you to share any secrets, Guineith, but here's what I was thinking. So if a person wanted to be on the run for whatever reason, whether it be the big bad system is coming after and wants to kill him, and a person wants to just be out of the way for his or her own safety, whatever the reason may be, no specific reason. Here are some things that I'd like to share with you. And first we'll start with a little story. There were two young men within the last several months who were incarcerated in jail in Missouri. And I don't know what their alleged crime was. But they were in jail awaiting something, either sentencing or whatever. And they decided that they wanted to get out of there. So they befriended the female jailer, a young gal. And somehow this befriending of the female jailer gave them the opportunity to make their escape, and they did. And they went on the run. And they were arrested the next day. So they were only out free for one day, and they made everything worse. Because now the big bad system had to go hunt them down, and they found them in the next state. Now they're in real trouble, right? Trying to get away from the big bad system. Okay. So what did they do wrong? It's obvious.
Cell phone.
Number one, cell phone. Cell phone. And I remember yesterday I had a small problem. There was a guy, I was at the dentist's office, and our dentist is a USA Preparedness instructor. There was a guy mowing at outside the building, this strip mall where his office is, this large mall area in Springfield, and my rear window was shattered in my old Mercedes. I mean, literally, my window was missing because it all went to crumbled glass. And I remember our instructor friend, we're working on getting the guy who blew out my window to admit to it. And so our instructor said, well, he doesn't have a cell phone. And it's like, matter of fact, Vin Finelli does not have a cell phone. Yes, that's correct. I do not have a cell phone. So, and for that very reason, I do not want to be tracked. Not that I'm doing anything wrong, but where I go is no one's business other than the ones I wish to tell. So these two young men got picked up because they had a cell phone. That's one thing. So if you decide that you don't want people to know where you are traveling, as I do, and I'm not on the run, I don't carry a cell phone. I don't carry with me a personal tracking device. Nor will I allow people in my vehicle to carry theirs. If they want to carry one, go ahead, in your own vehicle. Next, I purchased a 1996 automobile. That's my daily driver. It's a Mercedes. It's a diesel Mercedes. Right. It's mostly mechanical. And model years 2000 and newer, including 2000, many of them have these tracking systems. You can identify them by these little tiny antennas just over the rear window, in the center of the roof, in the rear. Okay, and they communicate with the satellite or satellites where you are. How do I know? I have one. I have a 2000 Mercedes. It's an E430, and I bought it used for very little money. And the computer got confused because the guy who was riding with me spilled my coffee down the shift lever console area, and it dripped onto the transmission control computer, and the car got stupid. It thought it was being stolen. I called Mercedes. They asked me where I was, and I told them I'm not really sure, but I'm in Illinois. And they told me the intersection where I was stuck. They knew I was in the middle of the intersection, and I was outraged. Now, did I subscribe to Mercedes SOS or OnStar equivalent? No, I didn't. But they knew where my vehicle was. So now you know, class, that a 2000 or newer model is probably being tracked. Next, I'll tell you some more thoughts, and Guineith certainly welcome to chime in if she has some thoughts, or not her choice. We'll be right back. Guineith Isaacs. I'm Vin Finelli. This is USA Prepares. You know, Guineith, I've got to tell you, I'm on this medication. I'm on some steroids for this lung problem I have. And my voice is kind of raspy. And what it does is it makes me really grumpy. I mean, really, really grumpy. So I have a hair trigger right now. And I've had for weeks. And the reason I'm mentioning this is it affects the things I say. And so as part of this story about being on the run and cell phones and my anger about cell phones, people crashing into others because they're texting and tweeting and reading their messages and talking on the cell phones when they're driving. I mean, they're a threat to everyone around them. Well, I was in the farmer's co-op within the last few weeks. And I walked in, and one of the guys there said, Mr. Finelli, your wife called. And she was calling. I knew she was calling to tell me exactly. They were doing a count. My son and she were doing a count on exactly how many fence posts we needed. And I had a rough idea. And she said, "Well, I'll tell you what. While you're on your way, while you're traveling, and stop there, and we'll call and let you know how many we need." So she called, and the guy behind the counter said, "You know, your wife called." And I said, "Well, that's great. May I use your phone to call her at the farm, because I do not have a cell phone." And everybody all the customers kind of looked up, like, "You don't have a cell phone?"
That would have got everybody's attention.
So, you know, I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. I said, "I don't have a cell phone." And they said, "Sure, just use this phone on the wall here." I said, "Okay." So, and then the woman, there was a woman standing next to me. She was a customer, and she said, "I don't have one either." And I said, "Well, good for you. Good for you." Because, you know, they track you. And so I got into this side conversation with her. And she said, "Well, I don't care about that." I said, "You know, they can turn that on remotely and listen into things you're saying." She said, "I don't care about that. I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't care." And I said, and they can turn on the camera, and they can see what's going on in your house, including your bedroom and your bathroom." She said, "Well, You shouldn't have it in your bedroom or your bathroom. So what she's saying, without saying it directly, is she's saying, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, so I have nothing to worry about. And I know enough not to have it on in certain places because, they can turn it on and watch me. Now, I can't describe my reaction without using the word stupid and ignorant. I can't.
I was going to say that's pretty stupid.
And I just looked at her and I realized that there is nothing I can do, nothing I can say to let this woman become a little bit more educated, a little bit more enlightened, learn a little bit more. And anything that I would do would be a complete waste of time. So I walked away. And the reason I mentioned I'm getting grumpy because of this medication, that's what it's doing to me. I am now writing people off. Before, I might have spent a little more time trying to, win her over to see what's going on. Now I go, she's just beyond help. Forget it. And so that was my reaction. So now I'm tying this to being on the run. Now, being on the run might not be being on the run. Might be just being someone like me who just doesn't want to be bothered having with people knowing where I am. It's none of their business. And when somebody calls me and says, so what are you doing? I go, it's none of your business what I'm doing. Who is this? I object to the lack of civility that we have. I object to the lack of breeding. I object to the lack of consideration. I object to the demands that people are making of me, wanting to know things. A lot of it's none of their business. And I'm not going to tell them. And I'm going to and with this medication, it's great because I bring it up short real fast and it's over real quickly. And when I'm all done, I'm probably going to have fewer friends to deal with. And it'll be wonderful.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I've actually now lost track of the number of times when I have, in the last year, just gone into town to do grocery shopping or to, see the boys' teachers at school or whatever, and have just taken my cell phone with me because I actually do have a cell phone, but I'm sensible enough to not have it charged all the time and to not have it in a place where it can receive signal all the time. There's airplane mode, okay? And there is these pouches that you get, and there's aluminium foil, which you can wrap it in, okay? There's a number of different ways of having a mobile phone if you must have one. And there are also ways, which I'm not going to go into on the air. If people are interested, there are ways that you can anonymize a mobile phone. It can be done, and I have done it in the past, but I'm not going to tell anybody how to do it, okay?
Let's talk about
how to do it. Mm-hmm. Then you can do your own research yourself and find out.
Okay, let's just talk about that for a second. Let's say, Guineith, a person wants to have an anonymous cell phone. Now, I know for a fact that you can go into Walmart and you can pay cash and you can buy a phone for $15. You can buy a prepaid cell phone card with 300 minutes on it for $15. $30 plus tax, you're good to go. Out the door, now you have a cell phone. So let's say a person wanted to do that and was on the run and was 3 states away. Okay, let's say 300, 400 miles away. Wants to let his wife or her husband know it's okay, I'm all safe, everything's good. One phone call from that unregistered anonymous cell phone that the name is Marilyn Monroe or Rocky Balboa or whatever the name is that is associated with that phone, a fictitious name. One phone call to home, just one, or one phone call to the spouse's cell phone is all it takes for a greater than 90% probability that that person is the one who they're looking for. Because who else would call that? Okay,
yes,
that's the problem.
Right. But on occasions, probably if you needed to use it, for instance, once, to go on social media and absolutely blast the people who just tried to kill you. And then you would have to basically deactivate the phone immediately. Okay?
Now that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
That could save your life.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that.
And I have done that. And if you want to go to my Facebook page, in the last few days, I actually reposted a Facebook post that I did back in 2012, where we were chased through a state park. That is my two sons and I, by a team, I would call them a Black Ops assassination team, that would have had about 20 or 30 people in it. They had helicopters, they had aluminium boats, outboard, type dinghy boats. Here in Australia we call them tinnies, okay? They had jet skis, and they had a pack of Alsatians. And they set that pack of Alsatians onto my children and I in the state forest. And this is coming to the next point. If you are planning to depart somewhere, it is absolutely essential that you learn wilderness survival skills, okay? And you make sure that you are in a fit and healthy state. And also that if you have to depart with other people, like, for instance, children, that you teach them these same skills as well. And as well as that, if you can, I would obtain a dog of between 20 and 30 kilograms that does not have a microchip, okay? There might be various ways that you could obtain such a dog. I'm aware that in a lot of municipalities, it's actually compulsory now to microchip your dogs, but I don't think that's the case everywhere. And there might be a way that you could get a hold of a dog that doesn't have a microchip, because obviously these things are RFID identifiers as well, okay? They're basically little antennas attached to the dog. And you can be tracked through your dog. But make sure before you leave that dog knows how to hunt. And that's for a couple of reasons. That dog will help to feed you. It's the world's best security system ever. You'll actually be able to sleep at night, okay? And it will keep you and other team members warm, which in a wilderness survival situation can mean the difference between life and death. And obviously, if you're doing this in a cold climate, a dog with a long coat is better, and if it's in a hot climate, a dog with a short coat is better. All of this is just common sense. And have it well trained, but don't put a collar on it. Do not put a collar on it. Have a collar in your bag if you must, but just use it for restraining the dog if you have to. But when you're out and about with it, have the dog so that it doesn't have a collar on.
Okay, when we come back, I'll tell you what we do with dogs, and it is absolutely in concert with what Guineith Isaac just shared with you. I'm Vince Finelli. This is USA Prepares. Alsatians. And wouldn't you refer to an Alsatian as a German Shepherd-like dog here in the United States? Isn't that what we would call an Alsatian?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So,
I would say Alsatians are probably really, really good pick, okay, for a dog to take out and about, because they are highly intelligent, they are very loyal, they will absolutely defend you with their very, very life. Mm-hmm. And when they bond to you and to other people in your team, they're just so friendly and so trustworthy when they're bonded to a team. That's why the police and the military use them. When we were on the run in 2012, we had a Rottweiler Kelpie cross, okay? And that was what she would have weighed between probably about 30 or probably just over 30 kilos. And before we left, we trained her to hunt by going out with an Aboriginal friend who had hunting dogs. And this particular friend used to go hunting on their tribal land. And so we took the dog and went hunting with this friend, and, basically her dog taught our dog how to hunt. And that's usually the way it goes with training a new hunting dog. Mm-hmm. You put it out with a dog that already knows how to hunt, and the dog will teach it how to hunt.
Class 30 kilograms is about 66 pounds. So roughly a 70-pound dog is what we're talking about. Too small, doesn't work. And the very, very large breeds have trouble getting around. They're a little slower.
And
but when you get
much.
yeah. But when you get into a German Shepherd, which we've had many of here at our farm, they're absolutely wonderful animals, and you're absolutely right. Loyal as can be. And if they think, and if they've bonded you, and they think that you are going to be harmed, they will step right in, and you probably won't even see it happening. They'll just go on the attack because that's what they do. So I wholeheartedly agree with you. Now, you're mentioning collars. We don't do things exactly the way most people do here at the farm. It's never occurred to me to put a collar on any of our dogs, except for the fact that during hunting season, I want to make sure that our dogs, and our dogs are allowed to wander around the entire farm. Wherever they want to go, they go. I'd prefer that they don't go too far, but they go wherever they think they need to protect the farm. And I want to make sure that some of our hunter friends don't mistake our dogs as maybe wild. So I may at times put something like minefield tape, which is kind of a reflective reddish orange tape, which is it's almost like a toe strap, half an inch wide. It's from the Vietnam War era. I've got a very large spool of it that I bought at a surplus yard years and years and years ago. But I may put that around their neck just so it's clear that that animal wouldn't have that on if it weren't part of some family. So, but do they have tags? No. Are they registered? No. Do they have RFID chips? No. Do they have all the recommended shots? No. Why should they? Right. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to register them. I'm not going to give them an RFID chip. I am not going to give them all the shots that everybody recommends. However, and I don't put Frontline on them because that's a killer. It destroys their nervous system. Yeah, our dogs are very healthy. Our dogs are really healthy. When we come back, I'd like to share a little bit more of my thoughts about what not to do should you decide that you want to keep your privacy intact as you travel. Guineith Isaacs is with us, and there's a link to her Facebook page at usaprepares.com. We'll be right back after top of the hour news and commercial announcements. Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of usaprepares.com. We're delighted you're here. Guineith Isaacs is with us. Guineith, we were talking about dogs. On the line is USA Prepares instructor Sharon in Montana. Sharon, I'm so glad you called. I really am. I'll tell you. You ready to hear why?
Why?
Well, last night I mentioned that I'm on these steroid meds, and I'm starving all the time. I mean, I am really, really hungry. I get up in the middle of the night, and I'll have 2 or 3 dinners. And for the last couple of nights, I got up and I opened the refrigerator, and I looked at the pickles, and I said, Sharon, I'll bet you. And I have written on my notes. I've got this spiral notebook that I've got a stack of that I've filled up as I broadcast. And I've got this, it says, Sharon, pickling, peppers, pepperoncini, Sharon. It's circled with a great big circle around it because I was going to call you about 5 minutes ago during the break. And I saw on the call screen, Sharon in Montana. So I waited. So here's the question. Can you teach us about pickling?
Well, I've made dill pickles and sweet pickles, and we make what are really hit bread and butter jalapeno pickles. They're really good.
Yeah.
I'm seriously, my sons take them back with them to where they live, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they keep hauling them back to show their friends. But I wouldn't say I'm an expert on pickles, but it's pretty simple. So we could talk about it. That'd be fine.
That would be wonderful.
Some, we've done some. I called for a couple things. One, I was going to make a comment on wrapping your phones in aluminum foil.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Probably 5-6 years ago, our kids were over here for Thanksgiving, so they're like late teens, early 20s type age. And we had wrapped our phones in aluminum foil, just figuring, it's not anybody's business what we're doing, not that we have anything going on. And it was really funny because our kids asked about it, and we said, let's just, kind of keep from being bothered. And then our phone rang, and it was wrapped in foil. And they laughed and they laughed. They thought that was so funny. And so then they went and made tinfoil hats to protect themselves from, radiation or whatever, which they thought was really funny. So my point with this is I just laughed along. I don't really care. They don't care that we do what we do, but they're not really on board completely. Although they are very, very knowledgeable on how to do almost anything to make it. They really do. They know how to can. They know how to hunt. They know how to cut up meat. They know, they know everything, how to process. They just don't particularly live that lifestyle right now. Anyway, I was just going to say, if you think you're securing yourself by wrapping them in aluminum foil, I would suggest that you have someone call you and make sure it's actually working. Just if you were saying, like you're saying, on the run. But it was pretty funny. We laugh about it now because, whatever.
Sharon, you're absolutely right. It takes multiple layers, and there can be no seams that are open. So if it's just the slightest opening, the slightest crack, no. It has to be many, many layers. So you might take 4 sheets of aluminum foil and wrap it really well and tightly. And then you're absolutely correct. What you need to do is test it. You need to have somebody call that phone. What we did at Roy Birdsong.
Before you set out and actually go anywhere.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. You shouldn't count on it just because people say it, okay? I believe you're right. We did not wrap it in multiple layers. Maybe 2, I'm thinking, and it probably wasn't airtight. But, people assume that what they're told is correct, and my suggestion is that you actually try it.
Well, here's one other.
I've never actually done that method myself, okay? Like I say, normally I just, if the battery on the phone is removable, I remove the battery. Airplane mode, I've found that probably the phone is less trackable on airplane mode. But, I'm not sure if there's any other little widgets in there that can, be set up for the phone to be tracked anyway, even when it's on airplane mode.
Let me share this with you.
I'm sorry, we're all trying to say something. We don't have regular phone, but we have cell phones. But we have the El Cheapos that you can take the battery out. So,
okay, there is a reserve. There is a reserve battery that is not removable on many of the phones. On many of the phones, and I'm not sure which ones, but many of the phones have a reserve battery for the tracking and GPS purposes. So, and also. Yes. Also, there is a code, and I don't remember what it is. So let's say your battery's dead, and you have a cell phone, and you need to make that one last emergency call. There is a code that enables that reserve battery to come on board, the one that keeps your phone alive when you think it's not alive. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but yes, there is a reserve battery. More to the case of the privacy. I have in my hand this is a solid piece of aluminum with a cover on it. It's the size of like a little cigar case of the 1950s and the 1960s. And it's called a privacy case. Now, this thing is machined out of aluminum. It's a precision container. And you can put your smartphone in it. If I had one, I would probably use it. And I tested this. And the privacycase.com, and I've had the instructor on who invented this. It absolutely positively works. You put your phone in this and you cannot call it. It will not answer. However, when I was at Roy Birdsong's, he's another one of our instructors, I said, hey, let's put, he has a cell phone store in Springfield, Missouri. I said, let's see if that microwave oven that you use to heat sandwiches in and things, let's see if we can call a cell phone in that. And the answer is the microwave oven, it has a door on it that's designed, and it's in a box to prevent microwaves from getting out. You can put your cell phone in your microwave oven and call it, and it will ring. What I'm telling you is those microwaves leak right out through the door. So just like the aluminum foil, just 1 or 2 layers is not enough. It needs to be thicker than that, and no air gaps. And test it. But you'll find, and whatever you do, don't turn your cell phone. Turn the microwave oven on with your cell phone in there because you'll blow it up.
There's rather fun YouTube videos about that.
but in terms of the microwave oven being a Faraday cage to protect electronics, the answer is it's not that good. It is not that good. So those are
the radiation can leak out then.
Yes, leak out. That's exactly right. If you can call it. If the electromagnetic wavelengths can get in there, they can get out from there. And what we're talking about is the same kinds of frequencies, the microwave frequencies coming out through the door as going in to call your cell phone. The answer is they leak. All microwave ovens, in my opinion, leak. So that's our little story on protecting your privacy. And you are right, Sharon.
I just thought that, it's one of those things that you really should just try. We've been around for a long time, and we just like to live a self-sufficient lifestyle, so we've tried a lot of things. But a lot of people just take the word of what they've read or heard, and not from somebody they know real well. Just so-and-so said, and a lot of it's not true. And at this point in our life, it probably isn't critical, but at some point it possibly could be critical. So I'm big on trying it yourself. But my other question was, because I've been hearing Guineith talk about it a couple times, using dogs for hunting. Now, I know that around here there are some people who use their dogs to get the, geese or whatever they've shot, and then there's one guy we know, he uses dogs for locating mountain lions. But how in the world would you use a dog to hunt for deer? I'm curious. We've done hunt deer and elk forever, and you have to be extremely quiet and sneak up on the buggers. So... question, how do you do that?
All right. Well, I'll tell you how we used to do it. Okay. When we were training the dog that I had, whose name was Sasha. Sasha is no longer with us. She's living under a mound of rocks in the backyard. Okay. We had to shoot her when we got to our farm because she was too much of a liability. Given that there's so many sheep farmers in the area, we took her to a local sheep farmer and asked him to give her a dose of lead poisoning. So that's the phrase that they use around here, bullet to the brain. And it was very, very hard because she was a lovely dog. She was very loyal, but she was a hunting dog, and you can't have a dog like that in a sheep raising area. Okay, but I'll tell you, we would get her, take her to an area where we knew that, because it was an Aboriginal reservation, and because I was the guest of the tribe, we were allowed to hunt the kangaroos. So I'm going to use kangaroos as the example. We would take her to where we knew that the kangaroos were, and the other dog would be with her, and the kangaroos would always hop across the track at a certain time of day, okay? And the dogs would be sitting there, and the dog that knew what to do would be, we would be driving along this track, and the dogs would be on the back of the ute, okay? If you were walking, you would just be walking your dog, and you would make sure that you go past that point, and maybe you just sit there and wait with the dogs at the crossing point that you know of, at the particular place on the track. And the dogs would see the kangaroos, and they would race after them and literally run them down, okay? Jump on top of them and kill them. And we're looking at the dog that taught Sasha was a bull terrier cross, probably weighed in excess of 40 kilograms, okay? But because he was crossed with something possibly Rottweiler, he still had the speed, okay? So, and what he would do is he would jump up onto their backs, and his sheer weight would knock them over and pull them down, and then it was a kill from there. And the dogs actually killed the kangaroo. And Sasha developed a different method. She would actually jump and aim at their head and knock their head at such an angle that it broke their neck.
Hold that thought. Sharon, would you like to hold? Guineith Isaacs is with us live in Australia. Sharon is with us live in Montana. Sharon, you asked about dogs and hunting with them, hunting deer. And let me share with you a short story. So our farm is on a dirt road, and I mean dirt, not gravel, dirt. And the frontage is about a mile long. And one day, this was several years ago, I heard these dogs barking. And there were several dogs, like a pack of dogs. And I thought, this is kind of odd. And so I went toward the road, and I saw this small pickup truck with an antenna array on the roof, a directional antenna array. And it was steerable. The antenna array was steerable from inside the cab. And what had happened was the owner of this pack of dogs, these hunting dogs, was using the dogs to run deer into a gauntlet. And his plan was to run them through our farm, and then about a mile away, set up the gauntlet where he was going to shoot the deer.
That's right.
And I saw him. And he was in the road, and I pulled up next to him. And what had happened was our cows were in the same field. And these dogs were terrorizing our cows. And so I pulled up next to him, and I rolled my window down, and I asked him what he was doing. And then I explained to him that today was his lucky day. His dogs would get a chance to live another day. But if he ever came back and pulled the same stunt, I wasn't going to be so generous. We'll leave it at that. And that's the last time we ever saw that guy.
Is that legal down there?
I don't think it's legal. First of all, he's trespassing on our property. Okay.
Right.
And I have the right to protect our animals from harm. And who does this guy think he is? And what did he say to me? He said, "Well, they're just dogs. They don't know about fences." I said, "Okay, but you do."
Yeah.
And if my cows are threatened, expect me to respond.
A hunting dog, unless it's trained otherwise, it's going to have difficulty telling the difference between a cow and an elk. Mm-hmm. Is the other
and
thing.
That's
why, it's sort of like Sasha. Mostly what we hunted with her was goats, wild goats. But, to expect a hunting dog to tell the difference between a goat and a sheep is not fair. It's just, you can't keep that sort of dog in a sheep raising area unless you keep it confined all the time, except when it's working. And that's not really very fair to the dog.
I don't think that you can use dogs here in Montana to actually catch a deer for you, basically, and hunt it, because our friends had a dog that loved to catch deer, so to speak, and they were going to put it down, the state, because he wasn't keeping it corralled. I know you can do it to locate animals if you could, but like I said, deer bolt at the smallest sound, so I was kind of curious how you would use a hunting dog to, hunt with for deer. But anyway, I was just curious. It seems very unethical to do that, what they were doing down there in Missouri. Doesn't sound, I don't know, it just doesn't sound
and as a result of this, when we first moved here 12 years ago, you could, on hunting season, even just before hunting season and after hunting season, you would see truck after truck after truck. Like, you could watch them come into the road, go very slowly down the road, looking left and looking right, scouting out, what they were going to shoot, that day or the next day or the next, they were looking. And as one truck would enter the road, down at the other end of the road, you could see one leaving. So there's always a truck scouting out the area. And it became a problem because these guys were shooting their rifles from the road, which is illegal, onto our farm, which is illegal, where our cows were, which is a menace. And it took us patrolling our road and stopping every vehicle. Like, so, what are you guys doing? Now, how were we dressed? Oh, I don't know. Like farmers with AR-15s. That's how we were dressed.
Yes, that's right.
And you know what?
You've got to be aware of people's property rights, and you've got to respect that if you're camping out in the bush.
Yeah. You know what? Okay. We don't see those trucks anymore. Those trucks don't come here anymore. We'll be right back. Okay. I'd like to share with Guineith, Isaacs, and Sharon in Montana that there are consequences to our actions. And let me just share this short story. I mentioned it before, but it bears repeating. It's germane to the conversation right now. So we have patrolled for a couple of years, and we've stopped this illegal poaching and hunting from the road. And one day, not too long ago, within the last few months, we saw this guy in his old beat-up truck, a disheveled-looking guy, going up and down our road very slowly, pulling over, looking at an area where we had a mama cow and calf, a small calf. Someone could easily pick this calf up and steal it, the size of a large dog. And maybe, 125, 150 pounds. Well, my son and I stopped this guy, and we pulled sideways across the road, blocked the road, and we decided we wanted to know who this guy was who was going up and down and stopping and checking out our farm many times during a period of about an hour. And the guy looked at me, and I did not say who I was. He goes, "I was warned about you. You're the guy that shoots people."
Well, maybe not quite.
So I didn't comment either way, and he decided that was probably the last time he should travel down our road, checking out our farm that day, and we haven't seen him since. So your consequences can have actions, and I've been asked a few times at the local farmers co-op, "Why do I carry a gun?" And I respond, "It's my duty. It's my duty to protect my family and to protect me from harm. Not that I'm looking for problems. I just am prepared." So I wanted to share that with you. Sharon, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I was going to say, we eat venison, primarily deer. We'd love elk if we can get one, but they're a little harder to come by. And we've gotten moose before. So that is our primary source of meat besides the chicken we raise. But we use that recipe for that pepperoncini Italian beef on our venison, and it was amazing. It turned out phenomenal. And you know what? You wouldn't have even known it was venison. Now, I usually spice it up so you don't know a lot. I've given dishes before and people didn't know they were eating venison. But we gave some to our neighbors because there was just too much for two of us. That's a lot when you make that much. I'd cut it in half next time, I think. But anyway, he thought it was great, and he was stunned to find out it was actually venison. So that is a really good recipe that you rounded up there.
Okay. I'm on 1.3 of soon-to-be world-famous Italian beef recipe, and I ran out of pepperoncini. So I stopped at the Chinese factory outlet. They didn't have any in gallons. And I'm certainly not going to buy a little tiny jar for over $3. I'm talking about a little tiny jar, like a cup. And I went to Sam's Club. They didn't have them. So I went to a place called Harder House. And if I want them, they'll order them for me. They'll order a case of them. And it'll be about $32 for a case. So $8 per gallon, which that's reasonable to me. $11, $12 per gallon is crazy. But my question for you was going to be, would you teach us how to pickle them? Because I was so annoyed that I couldn't get pepperoncini in Springfield Missouri for a reasonable price. I bought some seeds. I bought some pepperoncini seeds, and I thought, okay, I'll fix this. I'll just do it, And I know Sharon knows how to take care of this. So this has been over a week, me thinking about Sharon, smiling and thinking, I'll bet Kyle has got it made because she, I'm sure, makes the best meals. I'm certain of it. And so I was thinking about you, and that's where that came from.
That's
and
funny.
I'm not exaggerating.
I'm sure it's just like, pickling any other kind of pepper, so that shouldn't be too tricky. But yeah, we actually had to look for the pepperoncinis. I actually haven't had those before. I've had hot peppers and other kinds, but I hadn't bought that particular kind. And they were kind of spendy because all they had was about a cup and a half jar, and it was almost $4. Yeah. But we wanted to try your recipe. We wanted to try your recipe.
Okay, let's do this. If you've got time on Friday, if you could give me a call after the broadcast, maybe this evening, Friday, hour number 1, if you'd like to be on with us and talk about it, that'd be good. Or if that's not convenient, we could do a different time. But just a thought, okay?
Okay, I'll get back with you. And that's all I needed to, or wanted to talk about. So I'll let you guys get back to your other conversation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. That's Sharon in Montana. Now, Guineith, I'd like to read something to you. I read it yesterday, and the state of Missouri sicked their top legal counsel on our family, and in my opinion, they threatened us. Now, these people are financial terrorists. They have threatened us with putting a lien on our farm. They have indicated that they will steal our farm, and their claim is that we have unpaid sales tax. And they have hit us with penalties about 25%. So now they're coming after us for, they came after us for 2012 and 2013. And they've said that we didn't file. They said all kinds of things. And they actually made it out to be like we were wrong. And I declared on air that just because, you're audited doesn't mean you have committed something, you've done something wrong. Doesn't mean you're guilty. Doesn't mean anything. It just means that that's what they say. And so I said, we've been attacked by the financial terrorists, in my opinion, state of Missouri, Division of Revenue, and I believe it should be disbanded top to bottom, starting at the top, getting rid of every single person, everyone, even the guy who sweeps the floors. They're all in it together. Get rid of them all, start over, and just rebuild it at 10% of the staff. Okay? Now, I maintain that they had no jurisdiction. They had no authority. They had no claim to what they were saying. They asked for $35,000 plus $65,000 for those 2 years. They wanted $100,000 from us. The more they asked for, class, the more I dug in. And my response is, they would want to know. They wanted all of our emails. They wanted all of our customers. They wanted lots of information. They were going to haul us into a trial. The more paper they sent us, the more paper I sent them. The demands had time limits on them, and we could not comply with the time limits because they would postmark it, in my opinion, on their Pitney Bowes machine. It would say the equivalent of the first of the month. It would probably sit around for 21 days. They'd mail it, and then we'd get it just before 30 days was up, and they'd say you have to respond within 30 days. So I responded to them that all communication will be in writing. It'll all be in writing. And they have 14 days for me to receive their correspondence, or this is over, deemed resolved. Well, I got a letter from the Missouri Department of Revenue, General Counsel's Office, from the senior legal counsel, senior guy, top guy.
Yep.
And it says, Ray Vincent Finelli versus the Director of Revenue and the case number. I'm going to read this, every word. It's short, just 3 paragraphs. Dear Mr. Finelli, in close, please find a motion to dismiss your appeal with the Commission because the Department of Revenue has withdrawn the assessment issued to you. Based on information received, the Department now agrees you are not liable for the amounts assessed by the Department in the assessment issued in October 2016. Paragraph. I apologize for the confusion and any inconvenience this matter may have caused you. Let me read that one more time. I apologize for the confusion and any inconvenience this matter may have caused you. The department had limited information about your business activities because your business was not registered for sales tax, with the department has not filed sales tax returns. Really? Therefore, the department sought to confirm whether your business had any sales other than those exempt from tax under this particular section. I hope this satisfactorily resolves this matter. Please do not hesitate to contact me. And his phone number, 573-751-0961. If you have any remaining questions. Signed sincerely, Stephen P. Sullivan. He's the legal counsel. Now, my plan is, that is the last free advice they get from me. I've had it with these thugs, these perverts, these financial perverts, these revenue perverts, these parasites. They want any information from me, it comes with a fee. It's $1,000 an hour. That's what my time is worth to me regarding them, because it makes my blood boil. I can't stand these parasites. They want what we have, and they'll do anything they can, including threatening stealing our farm, a farm that has 4 generations of blood, sweat, and tears in. 4 generations. Not that we lived on this farm for 4 generations, but it took that long and that many generations and that many people to save enough money to buy a farm. And they're not going to steal it. I'm not letting them. It's not going to happen. And then what comes to mind is Ruby Ridge. That's what comes to mind.
I'll tell you what. If there's anybody in the class that finds himself in a similar situation, there is a UCC code especially for that. And it's UCC, it's either I or 1 dash 308. And I think you'll find that basically deals with extortion, which is defined as contract without consent. Okay, so anytime you get anyone trying to bully you into contract without your consent, they have to listen to the UCC, all right? They even have to listen to it all the way out here in Australia. And that was a point that I raised in my response to the mongrels who were after me over here, who had the trumped-up charges. UCC 1-308, okay? And
yes,
just before
that's
we go,
correct. It's UCC 1-308, yes.
Yeah. Just before we go, I want to give the people a list of things that they need if they are ever going to bug out that will fit in a backpack.
Very good. Very good. Guineith Isaacs will be right back with us, and there's a link to her Facebook page at usaprepares.com. Guineith lives off the grid. She's self-sufficient. She's a survivalist. We'll be right back. Class, I just want to share something with you, and this is going to sound kind of not like me, but I have taken, since I have this new attitude, this medically induced attitude, I am not taking it anymore. And when someone threatens my family, I am not going to be nice. I am not going to be nice. So when the big bad government comes after us, I'm not going to play nice. I'm not going to be polite. I'm going to be very firm. Very firm. And I will be on the defense. And I will take it like the serious fight that it is. So I just want to let you know that that is my strategy, and it works. It absolutely works. Yeah. So, like, if I'm going to be audited, I'm going to tell the guy right out straight, before we get started, who are you? I want to know where you live. I want your cell phone number. Fill out this government employee civil servant questionnaire before we begin, because I want to know exactly who my enemy is. I'm going to level with them, and I'm going to be really firm, and I'm going to be the meanest guy he's ever seen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to start a fight, but I'm going to be real firm.
Quickly.
Yeah. And one last thing before you get into the backpack and what you take with you. Class, if you decide you want privacy, do not go to Walmart. They've got facial recognition cameras there, including in the self-checkout. You're on camera, and they report you to the cops. How do I know? I asked them. So stay out of Walmart. Blend in. Maybe don't even wash your license plates. If you want to wash your car, that's fine. But, my license plates, I like them just the way they are, naturally. Whatever dirt they get on them, that's how they stay. And a light coat of oil.
Anyway.
Yeah, and a light coat of oil keeps the dirt on. Yeah, a light coat of oil keeps the dirt on. Okay, what shall we bring with us, Guineith?
You should, besides the dog, okay, you need to take with you, probably top of the list, a projectile firing device of your choice. Okay?
Yeah, that's a 45 and an AR-15.
Fill in the gap.
Yep.
Okay. If you're in an area with excessive firearms restrictions and you're on the run, okay, maybe something that is a bit more old school, but still just as effective. Okay. Personally, I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm into archery. I set up my target
sling bow.
with hay bales, and I like archery.
Slingbow.com.
And I have a compound bow, and it's about a 45-pound bow. And if you're a female, that's about what you need. You don't have to have a 60-pound bow if you're a female, because, what's the use of straining your shoulder muscles just to get an arrow fired off when you can put the poundage down and you can still get that projectile where it needs to go? And, But anyway, I'm aware we haven't got much time left. Second item that I would regard as being essential is a fire lighting device, okay? My first choice is a Bic lighter. Second choice is a flint, okay? And I use the flint together with my meat carving kit, okay? The meat carving kit and the Bic lighter and a small amount of paper and dry twigs and so on live in the mess kit. If you don't know what a mess kit is, go to your local camping store and ask them to show you one, okay? I'm sure that you, Vincent, know what a mess kit is.
Oh, sure.
Very, very handy little things. It's a fry pan that has a bowl that folds across the top of it.
Yep, they're used in World War II lots of times. Yep.
They were.
All
and
over.
Last of all, okay, a sleeping bag and a tarpaulin. And some rope.
We call them tarps here.
Fishing line.
Yep.
And
we call them tarps here.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can get your own worms.
If you have that, you can fit that all in a backpack and carry it. And food and stock powders are good. Stock powders and rice are the most efficient staple diet to get you going.
We're out of time, Guineith. Thanks so much for being with us.